Season 3, Episode 4 of W-EPS The Beak. I'm Jessica Getzfred.
And I'm Riley Pinnenfoss.
What are we doing today?
Well, we have 3 stories to introduce, and since you asked me, I think we should start with my story on small schools.
Sounds great, right? Take it away.
Elgin Public has always been considered a small school. This year, EPS class sizes in the upper grades are very small. Some might believe that is a negative thing. However, most enjoy the smaller setting. There are several benefits that come with a small school, one being the closeness of fellow peers. For teachers and students, they seem to find joy in this small community. According to science teacher Andrew Childers, the closeness of students and teachers is the biggest asset.
I think the best thing about being in a small school is you get a lot of one-on-one time with the students. Although I will admit that some of the students don't take advantage of it. The students have a great opportunity to, if they're on their study hall or before school, after school, they can go talk to the teachers in one-on-one and then even have a lot of one-on-one time in the classroom, which I think is great.
Most agree that having small numbers allows students to bond and build relationships with teachers, allowing them to learn more efficiently. Despite not being in any larger schools, Superintendent Dan Polk believes that in small schools, students are more than just a number.
Well, I haven't been in any really big schools, but in a small school, the teachers know the students, the teachers know the families, they know the backgrounds. You're not just a number. I think in some of the bigger schools, I don't think they try to be that way. But when you have 400 and 500 kids in a class, I think sometimes it can get that way. In a small school, we can keep a pretty good eye on you. We know when you're towing your job and doing things right, and maybe when things are getting a little astray, we can keep track a little better. So I think we can help students stay on track a little better.
Junior Jordan Lindgren believes that EPS helps keep him on track.
I get better grades.
Secretary Paula Jensen believes that larger schools sometimes offer more to their students. However, she feels the personal attention students receive is also important.
I think we would be able to offer more things because if you wanted to offer another sport, well, you have to have enough kids to go out for another sport. So we don't get to offer a lot of things that we could at a bigger school. But at the same time, I don't think the personal part of it is not there when it's a bigger school.
Having been in a larger school, 7th grader Trissa Russell finds no difference between a small and a large facility.
Larger school, they have more like books and stuff, but it's not very much different, even though it's just smaller people and less teachers and just smaller, but there's really nothing different.
Lindgren also likes the social aspects of a small school.
I like it as a small school because I can know every kid around and become friends.
Most at EPS seem happy with the small school atmosphere, but they also feel it has other advantages to offer. It's just like the Elgin slogan goes, some bigger, some smaller, none better.
Thanks, Riley. That sure was interesting and also very true.
Exactly. We may not have a lot of students in the high school this year, but the ones we do have are quality.
That's right. Take us, for example.
Speaking of quality, you know what it's time for, right?
That's right. It's time for Wolfpack Sports!
Winter sports is one activity that gets us out of the house and into the cold. The junior high sports are in full swing and are kicking it in gear. The junior high athletes are in the midst of the new sports season. Athletes are roaming the halls and are ecstatic about the winter season. 8th grader Brian Heidoff feels the boys basketball team is on the right track.
We're looking pretty good for having a lot of new kids join our team.
Fellow classmate Brenna Martinson is confident about the girls' team.
We're looking pretty good for having a lot of 7th graders on our team, more than 8th graders.
Heidoff has a goal for the season.
We're looking to accomplish to go undefeated in our basketball season since we did it last year.
8th grader Dylan Luking agrees.
To go undefeated this year.
7th grader Trissa Russell is looking to accomplish something a little different than the boys.
I really want to go to some tournaments and get to play some other teams, but I just really want to focus on getting better and knowing everything about basketball. It's been one of my favorite sports, so I'm just kind of focusing on that and knowing and getting to know my teammates and stuff, what they're like.
Heidoff has a favorite practice drill.
My favorite drill was 3-man transition, because you get to run down the court and go between defenders.
Martinson prefers a shooting drill.
The Stains shooting drill because you get to shoot all types of things.
This young group of aspiring athletes play a slew of positions.
I play a guard. I usually shoot the ball.
I don't really have a position, but I usually play point guard. I kind of do a lot. I go everything, so I basically play every spot, but I don't really have a specific one.
Post.
I play guard.
Junior high basketball coach Eric Miller believes the team is doing really well this season.
So far, we've played 3 games. They've won them all. We had a really close one. The second one just won by 1 point, but they learned how to kind of get past all the struggles the first couple quarters and pulled that one through. So overall, season's going pretty good. B team's doing pretty good too. They're playing hard. Can't ask for much more than that. So so far so good, I guess.
Although they have been doing well, they still have some weaknesses.
I'd say the one that comes to my mind is with this group is they always give good effort, which is good. I think sometimes when things don't go their way, they can kind of start shutting down a little bit or get frustrated, and all of a sudden it kind of affects their game. So if they can just work on forgetting about the past play, just act like it never happened and just focus on the next play and play as hard as you can, that'll get them pretty far. So just kind of sticking with it.
Junior high wrestling coach Trey Rossman coached his team into a successful season. Rossman knows his wrestlers improved a lot this season.
I felt that they improved every meet, and by the end of the year, they were wrestling their best.
Hey Jess, if you could be any kind of animal, what would you be and why?
Tigers, because they're fast.
Really? I think I'd be a stray cat because they sure get a lot of attention around the EPS campus.
You're right, they sure do. And I'm going to tell you all about that in our next story. Usually when people think about school, they don't really think about animals, but for Elgin Public, this seems to be the norm. It's uncommon for animals to show up, even in the doors for that matter. Secretary Paula Jensen shares an interesting story with her encounter with an animal around school.
One day I came from lunch in the summertime, and it's so hot in the hallways that we usually leave the doors open. And as I'm walking up the ramp, the squirrel was walking into the school building. He went down the hallway and got to the other glass doors, and he couldn't get out. So he just kept jumping up and hitting the glass doors and dropping down and hitting the glass doors and dropping down. So I'm like, okay, I want to keep an eye on him, but yet at the same time I want to run around the building and I'll open up that door and see if he'll run out. So I... At that same time, Stacy Shoemake came, and I said, you keep an eye on the squirrel, I'm going to run around and unlock the door. And so by the time I got around there, the squirrel wasn't there. So I had to go find Mrs. Shoemake, and she had cornered him. He had gotten into the custodial closet underneath the stairway. And so she had to get him out of there and then open up the south doors, and then the squirrel ran out.
Not only have there been squirrels, but we have also seen the occasional cat wandering around. These cats usually belong to neighboring families. Sometimes students become emotionally attached to these animals. As a result, the journalism class even began to ask for a class pet. Sophomore Riley Vittenbosch really wanted to see this happen.
We wanted to get a journalism cat. We'd name it Scoop and let it live in the lab, but Mr. Rumhoff wouldn't let us.
Deb Beckman's second graders are interested in a class pet. They are willing to share some ideas of what kind of class pet they would like.
Dog. Oh. I don't know.
You don't know?
A cat.
A cat? Xander?
A snake.
A snake.
Dog.
A dog?
Rabbit.
A rabbit.
That's what I have. Dog.
A dog?
Snake.
Snake.
Kittens.
Kittens.
Puppies.
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 Iguana. Iguana.
Hamster.
Hamster. Crystal Bohr's fifth graders have also taken an interest and feel they could potentially learn from a class pet.
To learn responsibilities. Me?
Yeah.
It's kind of like you can get rid of all your stress.
Like stress?
Yeah, like a stress animal. If you have the same animal as you do as a class pet when you're older, you could practice how to take care of one.
Yeah, that's good. Jensen feels there are some benefits for having a class pet.
I think class pets are important because it does teach kids responsibility, and someone else is relying on them instead of them always relying on someone else. So if we don't feed it over the weekend, it's not going to be in very good health on Monday. And fresh water, fresh cleaning the pens and stuff, it's a good idea. When my kids were in school, they had class rats, and I'm sure glad they didn't bring one home, but I'm glad that they got that experience of having to take care of something.
In addition to the elementary classes, science rooms are notorious for housing pets. Science teacher Andrew Childers doesn't currently have a pet, however, he is thinking about getting one.
There's been a lot of discussion among the classes. I know when I was in school, we had chinchillas, I think a hedgehog. I'm being motioned to get a snake by some people over there, but I'm not going to listen to them. I know in my elementary grades, I guess we had hermit crabs. I think the class and the best discussion would be, and I've never dealt with one, so it would be tough, but like a bearded dragon, something like that.
It seems the idea of class pets at EPS is more of a wish list item rather than something that would actually happen. Until then, students can enjoy the random stray cat, dog, or even wayward squirrel. And the journalism class can just keep hoping that one day Mr. Wimhoff will give in.
No, absolutely not.
Well, the good news is that we finally reached a compromise with Mr. Wemhoff.
We finally got our journalism cat.
Well, kind of.
That's it for this episode.
I'm Riley Videnvoss.
And I'm Jessica Getzfred.
Be sure to join us for our next broadcast.
Keep an eye out on our newsletter.
And don't forget to follow us on Twitter.
At W-EPS The Beak.
On air.
In the print.
In the know.
Oh, this is your feet are flat. Oh, look out! I'm scared.